Good morning, Table Community Church. Good morning, Table Kids volunteers. Just practicing for tomorrow, apparently. Thank you guys so much for being here, for taking time out of your Saturday morning to join us. It's been a little while since we've done a Table Kids training, so we're excited to be together and be with you. A little bit about the morning is we're going to spend some time in here, kind of going over some visions, some handbook stuff, curriculum, and then we are going to break out into table talk groups throughout the building. So where you normally serve in the morning, we want you to join those classrooms and then just have some time to talk about what's going well, talk about maybe some of the frustrations or challenges that we're facing right now, because we want this to be kind of a collaborative effort. And so that will be the second portion, and more details about that will come. But I just would love to begin praying over this morning and this time. And please, there's plenty of food, so throughout this morning, please go eat, drink, and enjoy yourselves. So let's pray. God, thank you so much for these amazing volunteers and teachers who care so deeply about your children. God, I am just so blessed to be a part of a church that sees the value of kids, that sees them as an important part of the body. God, I just pray for this morning. I pray that it would be fruitful, that encouraging conversations would come out of it, Lord, and that we would leave this place just more energized and excited about serving in Table Kids. We love you, Lord. Amen. All right, so if you had a chance, which hopefully you all did, to look over the handbook, we have 3 goals that we kind of aim to successfully accomplish on a Sunday morning. So first is we want the kids to have a blast. So going to Table Kids should be fun, despite all of the tears that you hear in the classrooms. From the games we play to the stories that we tell, we desire the rooms to be joy-filled and full of life. We want to see the kids be safe physically, emotionally, and spiritually. There's a quote in the Family Discipleship book that we base our Table Families ministry upon, and it says, "The role of the church is to help disciple children by coming alongside parents and caregivers with love, support, accountability, and prayer. Faithful brothers and sisters provide additional voices of truth for children, not to assume parental influence, but rather to supplement and to strengthen it." And I love this quote because it describes what we as teachers and volunteers get to do each Sunday. In this crazy and chaotic world, these classrooms get to be a little place of respite for kids to be able to hear the gospel. We get to be kind and fun, compassionate, safe adults that can provide additional truth for these kids. And then we also get to come alongside the parents and encourage them. I think I love this, the consistency of when we all are serving consistently, because then we get to have these relationships with the parents too. We get to speak into their lives. If a kiddo says something really sweet or funny, a kid gets picked up and you can tell that story to the parent, and that is just an encouragement to keep going, that family discipleship is worth it. And Table Kids, though it's not everything, it is a part of that. And this physically safe, emotionally safe, and spiritually safe feels really important to us as we continue to welcome in foster kiddos, kiddos with disabilities. Like right now at our church, I want to say that we have 5 or 6 foster kids coming to church on Sunday mornings. And so if we can make this happen, it just creates a beautiful way for them to experience healthy, safe adults. And hopefully, maybe be changed by the gospel when they're in the classrooms. Which leads us to our third point. We want the kids to hear the gospel. I heard one children's pastor say that kids don't have a baby Holy Spirit. The same Spirit that works and lives in us is in our Table Kids. So we should be bold in sharing the gospel with our kids. Age appropriate, totally, but watered down, no way. Matthew 19:14 says, "But Jesus said, 'Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for to such belongs the kingdom of heaven.'" Jesus himself invites these kids into the gospel, so we must do the same. Now, the Sunday morning goals are very important to us. However, my dream as a children's director is for it just to go so much deeper than just a Sunday morning. It's a sacred and holy experience where we, as teachers and as volunteers, get to experience the presence of Christ. Way back, I have it, January 2021, we did a series on spiritual disciplines. And one of the disciplines that we covered was the discipline of being with children. And it was so good. I think sometimes we think of spiritual disciplines or practices just as a standard fasting, praying, reading our Bible. But this author David Fitch, includes the discipline of being with children. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to the sermon that Justin did, I would highly recommend going back and listening to it. That chapter in the book kind of radically changed my view of children's ministry and what we do as Table Kids volunteers. So a lot of the quotes that Justin mentions in this sermon are from David Fitch, who wrote that book. And one of them that kind of has shaped me and my desire to see Table Kids like this says, "The stunning reality is that being with children is an encounter with the living Christ. We set aside our striving and we quiet our need to control. We enter their space and tend to their presence. In their vulnerabilities, my own vulnerabilities are exposed. In doing so, a space is opened up and Jesus becomes present and begins to work." This, teachers, is the gift of being with children. When we show up on a Sunday morning, we have the joy to play and be silly and fun, but we also have this beautiful opportunity to tend to Christ's presence as we care for and love on and play with kiddos. And my prayer is that would be true for Table Kids, that both kids and the adults and the youth helpers that show up walk away from the classrooms having experienced the presence of Christ. And I believe that that's how our lives and our communities and our cities will be changed. David Fitch goes on to say that all who can lower themselves to be present with the child will experience Jesus and his kingdom like nowhere else. Have you guys felt that before? When you're in those classrooms and it's wild and crazy, and then there's these little moments where you're like, this is it. This is it. I believe this to be true. I've seen it happen in my own parenting life and in kids. And I believe those classrooms are spaces where the kingdom of God can come close as we learn about Jesus in sometimes the most simplest ways, right? And we can experience his goodness together. Like I said earlier, I am so grateful to be a part of a church that sees children as an integral part of this community. I think that is why our Table Kids classrooms are like off the chains. I think it's why we have so many kids, so many families joining, is because we value and we see the value of table families and table kids. And this is why we value curriculum that keeps Christ at the center, where kids are learning gospel truths each week and hopefully some practical application for their own lives. So a little bit of a bummer news. Sue Landreth, she is our curriculum coordinator. She's not able to be with us this morning, but this is just a chance for you to see her and for her to kind of pseudo interact with you. So she recorded a video about our curriculum, some of the two different kinds we use, why we use them. So we're going to play this video, and then I'll come back up if there's any questions about curriculum and answer some of those. So if you get a chance, her email, I'll get the email to you guys. I would love it if we could just overwhelm Sue with a lot of positive encouragement, just saying thank you, because a huge part of her role is making sure those classes are staffed and ready to go Sunday morning with all of the material. And it's a lot of work putting those crafts together. So I will make sure that we get you her email so that you can encourage her and say thank you for all that she's done. You can play the video from Sue.
Hi everyone. I'm really sorry I can't be there with you today, but I hope that this morning you will feel how valuable that you are to our ministry, and that you will feel how much we appreciate you. My role at Table Kids is to plan the curriculum and the activities that you will be using each week. I've been doing this role for about 3 years, and over this time, the curriculum that we've used has evolved. For a long time, we used the Gospel Project with all ages, and we knew that the younger kids, it wasn't really age appropriate for them. And we were really excited when Janelle Trapp, who many of you know, introduced us to Heart Shapers. We've been using Heart Shapers with the toddlers through kindergarteners. It is a Bible-based curriculum that has lots of visuals and activities that are very geared for little kids, and they're engaging and fun to use. So I hope that the teachers that are using this curriculum are enjoying it, and that the kids are as well. For the elementary kids, we are continuing to use the Gospel Project, and were introduced by Sue Burson to a lesson format that she had used at her former church. And so using this format from Sue, I take the Gospel Project lesson that has many, many pages, and I whittle it down and put it into a format that's really easy to read. I have the main points, we have the Bible, the scripture, the verse, and we also have a PowerPoint that goes along with the lesson as well. So I take the key points and put it into this easier to read lesson plan. We know that we are very fortunate to have teachers that are able to spend quite a bit of time planning ahead for their lessons on Sunday, and we're really grateful for that. And we also know that there are volunteers that don't have that kind of time, and we are also grateful for you. So the goal was to take the Gospel Project materials and put them into this easier to read format so that anybody can step into a classroom, whether they've had time to prepare or not. They might even be a substitute that gets called just that morning. And we want them to be able to walk through the lesson and make it an easy way to get through the material in a way that's fun for them and fun for the kids as well. So you're going to be able to spend some time in a discussion group in a little while, and you'll be able to share ways that the curriculum is going well, and there might be suggestions that you have for ways to improve the Table Kids Sunday morning times. So I look forward to hearing from you, and thanks so much for spending part of your morning with us.
So the next slide that we have is an example of what she was talking about. And this is this Sunday's lesson guide. And if you have seen the Gospel Projects before, she was true. It's like pages and pages and pages. So we hope that this is helpful, especially for the 1st through 6th grade classrooms, to distill it down. And what we've tried to do every week is have a so what moment. And so when families are hopefully discussing what they learned on a Sunday morning, you guys can both share your so what moments with each other. And just so you guys know, over Advent, we broke out and we did the same sermon series with that we did in Table Kids was happening here. And I don't know about you guys, but it was really rich for our family to talk about the same exact stories that the kids heard on a Sunday morning and that we heard on a Sunday morning. It was really sweet. One Sunday evening, we were talking with Baylor, and we said, "What'd you learn today?" And he was talking about when the paralytic was being brought down to Jesus, and he said he got up from his mat and he walked. And there was a certain point in Carrie Faye's message about that I just remember like being really moved by. And then hearing Baylor say it back to me was just so incredibly powerful. And so I think there's a richness of having the same sermon series happening at the same time. We're not going to do John for 18 million years with table kids, but anytime that there's a breakout, we're going to follow that. And so in a few weeks, we're going to do a breakout on community. So kids, the table kids classrooms will also be doing that breakout, following along that same sermon series. And it's just another opportunity for us to encourage parents to have these conversations with your kids. It matters what they're learning on Sunday morning, and it can all be a part of that discipleship time. And so if you guys have questions or concerns about curriculum when we are breaking out into our breakout rooms, this would be a great time to talk about them, share what works well, share what doesn't. I think Sue is genuine in her desire to continue to make this better. So we appreciate any kind of insight that you have. So next, we're going to move on to the super exciting handbook, and we are going to invite Carolyn up. Carolyn is incredible. She does all of our scheduling, which, as you all know, is a hard job. And so please give her a huge round of applause for doing it every week.
Hello. I was telling Molly that I really enjoy talking to tiny humans, and grown-ups make me nervous. So I'm so glad that I already know you all. So if I stand here and shake a little, it's fine. Don't worry about me. So like Molly said, my focus is the volunteer coordinator for Table Kids. And so I love it because that means I get to talk with you all on a regular basis and see your names come through the schedule. And I hope in my heart that anytime you see a text from me, it's not like, oh no, it's Carolyn. Hopefully it's like, oh, Carolyn. And then, with all the love I can give. So thank you for your role in the Table Kids ministry and what we get to do to partner together for all of the kids and their parents. You are the reason why any of this works. We have our vision, we have our goals for our kids, for our families, and you all are really the vessel that makes the gospel happen to the kids. So the greater vision, the curriculum, and the crafts we use, that Holy Spirit communication of the gospel story is coming from you all. So it's whether you're dissecting a big idea with the elementary kids, or you're using your arms to provide comfort to a tiny human, you are the messenger of God's tangible love to Table Kids. So thank you for being here for that. And then thank you for sharing your gifts in this way, because those are gifts to our families. So with that, we're going to cover a few highlights of the manual. So you all had a chance to see it in your email, whether you read it or not. If you want to pull it up on your phone, you're welcome to. We have a couple copies on the table, but we're just going to cover a couple of highlights and then have a time for questions. So let's do this. If you know my family, I have 3 kiddos. My littlest is a train fanatic. So as I was thinking about this, I was just writing and thinking and praying about what to say, and I wrote on my thing, the first stop on the handbook train, and I didn't even mean to do that, so this is for Ben. So on our handbook train, we talk about defining our roles. So at the very back, this is something that's new to our handbook over this last fall, so whether you read it a couple years ago, you read it for the first time now, there's been some updates along the way. One of the things that I was really excited about was just writing out what it looks like to tangibly serve in Table Kids. So we have personal expectations for the volunteers, just as you sign up to serve, to uphold the mission and vision of TCC and Table Kids, actively participate in sharing Jesus' truth and gospel by caring for their physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual needs during the gathering time. To actively maintain a relationship with Jesus, and to regularly attend gatherings at TCC, maintain unity with TCC's practices and beliefs. And for however many Sundays you serve in a month's time, it's important to maintain this one for sure, just being an active part of the community and of Sundays. So whether you're able to serve and then come back and watch the gathering online at home because you're not able to stay, or you are able to serve one gathering and attend the other, whichever way is going to work best for you and your family, we just really want to make sure that you get to do both. Focus on our families, but also don't miss out on the gathering time as well. So for our Sunday responsibilities, our teachers, we talk about the teacher role when you see it on the schedule, it's that little teacher line, facilitating activity and play, leading discussions, engaging in conversations, and then teaching that curriculum as the core for all the classes. For the littlest ones, holding, soothing babies, talking with parents, and then for the other, using the supplies that we have provided, the curriculum, the craft supplies, anything here is free game to use in the classrooms to engage with the kids. Our assistant role is also on the schedule. It's to support the teacher in a classroom, so holding the babies, for the female volunteers to change the diapers as needed, for the littlest ones, to be present in the classroom, help the teacher with guiding kids to engage in the lesson, keeping the kids engaged, keeping their attention, gathering supplies, all of those good things to just support the whole class. We also have our service lead role, and this is one of, I love this role because it is outside of the classroom, but it's also a way for people to engage who may not want to be in with kids all of the time. But you see them circling the building on Sundays. They're your support system outside of the room. So service leads check in through the gathering. They collect and deliver water pitchers as needed, gather extra supplies. They page parents, which is magical in some Sundays. They are your liaison between you as the teacher and the parents in the gathering. So they also, behind the scenes, will conduct head counts, so they're really helpful for us in maintaining kind of our back-end system of table kids. And they'll print off emergency rosters and replenish supplies. So those papers that you see coming at you in the morning, those are emergency rosters, and they serve two purposes. They give us an accurate account of the students in the classroom, and they provide a list of kids in the event of an emergency. So if for any reason we were to have to evacuate the building at a time with kids in tow, you have something that has the list of names for the kids that are in your care. And then the first one, when you receive those in class, some people will leave them there, some people will peek at them. I would love if you could just take a look at that roster when you see it, and then edit it for who's actually in your class, especially for the younger early childhood classes, because they will move up in the system at different times. So grade school, we've got, Promotion Sunday, where they'll move up all at once by the grade that they're in. And early childhood is more staggered based on kind of their age and developmental phase at that time. So having you make notes on that roster with who is actually in your class is also super helpful for us, because then we can see where we need to edit the system to make it more accurate. So you'll see those. That was a side tangent on the service lead. And our last role, come back around, is our youth helper, which we have some here today, which I'm so stoked. I'm glad that you're here. So youth helpers, your role is to, most importantly, to play with the kids, be on the floor with them, just engage with those kids, help them with toys, holding things. Elementary school kiddos, sitting at the tables with them, helping them read, craft, encouraging the students to listen and engage with the teachers. So that is just kind of the overview of the different roles that we have in Table Kids and where you play a part. So the next stop on our handbook train is our 2 volunteer rule. This is another one I wanted to address. So this one's on page 3, when you serve in a classroom, there's usually 2 adults that are in a class, or 2 volunteers. We may have 2 adults and 1 youth helper that you've seen. For some of our 9 a.m. toddlers, we've had 3 adults and 2 youth helpers and 16 children. And just, again, like Molly had mentioned, we're bursting for that gathering, and it's so exciting to make a space for these kids to come, and we want to do it safely. So for those that have experienced our 9 a.m. I'm so glad that you have, because it's a joy. So we might have youth helpers mixed in there. And then in our second gathering, it's a little quieter for some Sundays. Some have not. But you may even see one adult and then one of our competent youth helpers. So 2 volunteers. So 2 volunteers help serve these purposes: protecting children from any possibility of abuse, because there's accountability with right there; protecting adults from possibility of any kind of accusation, false accusation; and then protecting all in the classroom in case of an emergency, where one volunteer will watch the kids, another will be able to get appropriate help. There's just 2 eyes at all times. Um, so if you find yourself as one adult in a classroom with kids, and we've talked about it ahead of time, you and I have connected. So like in our 4th through 6th grade is my one example, because we often have one grown-up in the 4th through 6th grade. Whoever is serving as the service lead during that gathering, whether it's myself or Molly or Judy or Cheryl, Danelle, we have some amazing service leads. They will check in periodically to help with bathroom breaks if needed, or gather supplies, or just help be a support if you are in that older elementary flying solo. So, but all other classrooms will have at least 2. So the next stop on this handbook train, we're flying through here, is our restroom policies. It's another one I wanted to highlight. So the biggest notes that I have and reminders for here, just breaking it down to our classrooms: our early childhood, tots, toddlers, and preschool. We have diaper changes that happen in at least tots and toddlers. So female volunteers are in charge of diaper changing. We've got all the supplies in the classroom for you to use. You can use what's in the diaper bag that parents bring, or you can use what's under the counter, what's going to be more convenient. For the preschool, we have that, and toddlers, we've got that Jack and Jill bathroom, the adjoining bathroom between each class. So just make sure, as kids need to use the bathroom, just make sure it's empty. Do a knock on the door and call in there, and let the kiddo use the restroom, and do not help them. You may help them if they ask or if they've had an accident, but only if they need help. So otherwise, you don't have to go in there. And then if they do have an accident or an illness or something comes on super quickly, we'll page the parents and they'll come help. So you don't have to worry about accidents or things like that as far as the cleanup is concerned. We call parents in for backup. For the kinder classes through elementary, because they don't have a bathroom right next to them, we use these main hallway bathrooms up in here. So my notes here, the female assistants or teachers, the female adult volunteers in the class, will be the ones to accompany students to the bathroom. And you don't go in the bathroom with the kids. So you can stay outside the door. You can put your foot cracked in the door if you want to make, just be, so they know and you can hear a little better. But you don't need to go fully into the bathroom and then have the door closed. The other thing I like to do before I allow kids to go in the bathroom is I will open the door myself and call in there and just say, we've got kindergartners coming through, and I will do it for the men's and I will do it for the women's. Do not be shy about announcing the arrival of the kids into the restroom space. So again, it's all we want to make sure that the kids are safe when they're working that out, and then also for you guys. So again, in the event of an illness or accident in that case, we will page mom and dad, and they will come help. So the same way that we look at our 2 volunteer rule and how it protects children from the abuse and volunteers from possibility of false accusation, we want to be above reproach in what we do as volunteers, in all the various ways that we do interact with them. So before we step off the handbook train, I would love to open it up for questions. If you guys made a look through the handbook, it doesn't have to be about these 3 things. It can be about anything that you saw that you had a question about, and I'd love to see if I can help. Mm-hmm. They can take a bathroom buddy. Yep. And then for your classroom, because the classrooms have windows on them, it's all right for the door to remain closed because there's window access. Um, and then at least for having one adult still remaining in the bathroom. For your class, for the first through third in particular, I would just be really aware and make sure head counts happen when students come back from the bathroom. Send one volunteer to the hallway to just clear out the bathroom first or announce their arrival, if that makes sense. Does that help? Yeah, have them take a buddy in with them, and then helper stands at the door. Yep. I would, just for so that way they're not alone in the bathroom together, like or in alone in the bathroom. They have someone in. There's another student in there with them. That's my recommendation. Yes, Judy. Which is awesome. Another note about elementary school, because we do have our older elementary, and they are technically self-release class. So we have, and then something we've talked about as service leads is just keeping an eye on the lobby and keeping an eye on the older elementary kids that are able to take themselves to the bathroom, because that's the one class where they will self-release from class at the end of the gathering, and then so yeah. Any other questions, Melissa? I no, we haven't done that. It's mostly about making it known that there's kids in there, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that it would be all right. Okay. I- If you have parent consent, then from a parent, then it's all right to change their clothes. If you didn't, then we can page the parent. Even if you page the parent out to the classroom and catch them before they see their child or their child sees them and starts to have that meltdown time, you can connect with them in the hallway and just say, "Would you like me to change their clothes, or would you like to do that?" Give them the option there at that point. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, we haven't followed that super well. We haven't followed that super well, as I'm sure you all have seen. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, it's really hard to. I get it, April. It's really hard to distinguish, especially with the 2 and under crowd. What is I have a respiratory virus, or what is I'm teething? Like it, because they both present very similarly to the small children. So yes, but I will say, done them. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Is it green? How long have they been sick? Yeah. Yeah. You can I would Page's service lead. Yep, absolutely. There's also we also have the cry room space as well, where the service is piped through, so parents don't have to miss out if they do end up having to step out of class. But ultimately, yeah, Molly or I can have that conversation with the parent as well. It is hard to hold that boundary when it's something really gnarly like green phlegm. But if we can communicate it as best as possible, as we want to take care of that kid and not put him in a place where he is miserable trying to play, but also take care of the rest of the kids as well as much as possible. It is an hour time, but some of those little ones have snot all over. um, yes. Another note with that, Molly, do we have a thermometer, a forehead reading thermometer? Okay, because we'll pull that out. And then um, the basket. Yeah, so if you're concerned about a kiddo, or we can come check their temperature and just see as a good baseline place to start. Any other questions about handbook things? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They're not, not during the gathering. After, yeah. So it between. We'll find more toys for the second gathering. Yeah, good question. Right. Yes, Sherry. That's a good question. Because the service lead could be in helping another space or down the other hallway, you can send your youth helper out. If you've got a couple of grown-ups and a youth helper, you could have them go take it to the hallway, or the assistant, Judy, as a if the service leads would be all right with that, we could share, because we all have phones. Could think about walkie-talkies, maybe. Walkie-talkies in a classroom. Okay, this is good. Thank you. Good notes. For now, before we get that far, at least, though, you can, especially if it's emergent, bathroom breaks or things like that, you can send someone out to find them for help. Yeah, these are awesome questions. Anything else for handbook things? And we can talk more about this too when we gather into the table talk groups. You'll be able to take some notes, share things about that particular classroom, and be there to write it down. So with that, the last thing I wanted to address is our schedule, because this is a world that I live in. So currently our ministry operates with collaborative scheduling model, where you all have seen it. It's interactive. You sign in, you find an opening, and you sign up. Or you get an email from me or a text that says, hey, how about this Sunday? Also, either way. So every block on this schedule has a thick border on the calendar that you'll see, and those are the spots that are necessary to fill for that gathering. So you'll see here, this is our preschool one. There's the thick blocked parts, and then there's the 3 dashes that you'll see there. It's a little fuzzy. And then you'll see over here, there's some blank spots on the bottom, and then one dark border around that one. So you'll see as a visual, those dark border spots are the kind of the priorities that we are filling for that particular Sunday. Often when we have a youth helper, you'll see Levi's name up here. Levi's been serving in preschool class for quite some time, quite good at it. So he is an excellent helper for Amy, where they don't need another volunteer in there, because the second gathering classroom is usually quieter and they're both on it. So as you look at the schedule, kind of look for those dark, thick border lines to see where the first openings are. So the last part of our schedule, we just really value the relationships. Molly mentioned it, building relationships with the kids and building relationships with their parents as well. So as teams of people who commit to serving together, us here in the classrooms. For those that have volunteered for years, you may remember back to having and communicating with classroom teams. So having communication with everyone who serves in the toddler class usually, or in the preschool class on a regular basis, and then having connection with those particular volunteers. Serving together, serving consistently with the same classroom time and gathering time can help build the trust between you all as volunteers as you get to know each other and see each other on your way in and out of class. And most importantly, that consistency in serving builds trust with the kids and their parents who come through the doors. And for those of you that love taking on any classroom space on any given Sunday, you like to float and serve in different spaces, engaging with different kids, there is room for you at any time. The neat part about the collaborative schedule model is that it allows for people to fill in where needed. And we have many volunteers that love to do that. Oh, I just had a minute, sorry. Yes, so if you weren't sure, we have volunteers that serve in a static schedule. So some of our volunteers, even here, signed up to serve the first month of every gathering, or of every month, for the same 9 o'clock gathering in the same class. Or the first 2 Sundays of the month, or the second 2 Sundays of the month, the same gathering, same class. They have put themselves onto a static schedule. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'm more than happy to make that happen for you. Just send me an email, because it'll go live whenever the next schedule cycle starts up. So if that's something you're interested in, just let me know. The most important thing that I like to remind people, because we also have some volunteers that serve 3 and 4 times a month, and this is their ministry space and table church where they have connected, and they are called to serve weekly. My biggest press there is just make sure that as you serve, you're able to also either attend the gathering or that you make time to watch it at home later with your family. So y'all, this is a lot of words that came out of me. So thank you for coming along. I told you I was going to sweat. So thank you for coming along with me. And then one more next step to do to introduce that you'll see after we dismiss to our table groups. So shortly here, I'll have Molly come up and do that. But when you get there, you will see a computer in each of our table group classrooms. And there will be a computer set up for a volunteer contact form. So what this is it is a Google form that if you would like to have your information available for your teammates to see, for other people, other volunteers to use, and to contact you to trade Sundays, to communicate about classroom, something exciting about the classroom, you're able to provide your information. We want to make sure that you do it with your consent. So it'll serve as a sub-trade list for volunteers. So if you're on there, then you give consent for people to contact you about trading Sundays, because we can all see the schedule and make that happen. It's also an evolving system, so we like to do new things and grow and see what works and see what doesn't. So we want to work it out with you. So with that, before Molly comes back up, are there any questions about scheduling things? Okay. Okay. Molly?
All right, really quick before we head to our table talk rooms, on your tables, there's a little handout about some sensory needs in the classrooms. Back when we did this training a couple years ago, we partnered with Jamie, who is an occupational therapist, and she came in and she did her capstone project with us in creating a disability ministry at Table Community Church. And it is amazing. It's one of the most beautiful things I think that I have been a part of here. And we have spaces in our classroom, in each of the classrooms, for kids to take a sensory break. We have bins of fidgets and toys and that kind of stuff. So those are all available to you. They, as Sue Burson will attest, can become a distraction for some of the kiddos. So she saw some of the hurdles around it and has put them away. But if she notices a kid could use it, she knows where they are. And so we want those to be something that serve you and your classrooms best, but just know that they're available. I think one of the beautiful things about this ministry is once we created it, we have seen families show up with kids with special needs come to table because they know that their kids can be in these classrooms, because they have heard that this is something that we care about and that we value, that we think that every child is deserving of being in these classrooms. And so we want to do our best to do that and to work alongside parents. And so please know that this is something that we care deeply about. I would imagine in the next year we'll be having a more formalized buddy program. Like some things are going to start rolling out because we are seeing more kiddos come, which is amazing. But what I wanted to say, when Jamie was here, for our volunteer training, she actually spoke on kind of a disability ministry and that how it can work within a church. And so I think we have do we have the Vimeo for it? If not, we'll follow up with you. She was part of our training, and she gave us, I think, about an hour presentation just on different sensory needs. So it's this one down here. So if you wanted to watch that, it's super thorough on kind of a variety of different special needs, what we may be seeing in the classrooms. Feel free to check that out. It was really helpful for us and for our team back then, and I think it will just continue. Otherwise, please take this little handout because it's just a kind of great overview of maybe what some of our kids are needing in the classrooms. But that is it's just like a brief touch on the disability ministry, but more will certainly be coming on that. All right, we will please grab more food as we head to the table talk classrooms. There's plenty there. And then if we can pull up the next, excuse me. So where you typically serve on a Sunday morning. If you are a floater, if you don't maybe know where you want to, maybe pick the classroom that most interests you or you seem excited about. So in the toddler room, tots, toddlers, and service leads will all go to the toddler room. Back in the kindergarten classroom, we'll have preschool and kinders. We'll go in those teachers. And then elementary, we're going to combine the younger and the older all in the younger elementary room. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay, why don't we take like 5-10 minutes, go to the bathroom, get more coffee, food, and then we'll start up in our classrooms.